Hello to everybody out there in Maryland's beautiful 8th Congressional District. It's your Congressman, Jamie Raskin, coming to you for my favorite time in the week, Local Hero, when we get to recognize the people that are making life so wonderful and rich and beautiful here in the 8th District. I've got two really sensational local heroes for you this week. Ann Hollander, who's the Vice President of the Quiet Skies Coalition, and Janelle Wright, also from the Quiet Skies Coalition, they run Montgomery County Quiet Skies. Ann is a founder, past president, and currently the VP of the Montgomery County Quiet Skies Coalition, where she advocates on behalf of our neighbors who are affected by highly concentrated and harmful and dangerous noise from aircraft operations at Reagan National Airport. She's also a founding member of the Aviation Impacted Communities Alliance, a nationwide group working to combat the harms of aircraft noise. And she serves on the board of Quiet Communities, a not-for-profit dedicated to helping communities reduce the health and environmental harms of noise pollution generally. She worked for the EPA, the Conservation Foundation, and Resolve, which is an environmental mediation group, and she holds her BA and her MA degrees from Stanford University. Janelle Wright grew up in Bethesda and has been active with the MoCo Quiet Skies Coalition since the fall of 2016, first on behalf of the Avenel community in Potomac, and soon after as a coalition leader working alongside Ann Hollander and other people seeking solutions to the aviation noise, which dramatically affects multiple Montgomery County communities. Janelle was appointed to the DCA Community Noise Working Group in 2017 and is currently working with members from neighboring jurisdictions to develop a Fly Quiet program for DCA. This last May, Janelle was interviewed by WJLA about the recent effort to weaken the slot and perimeter rules out at National. Janelle serves on the board of directors of the Avenel Community Association and volunteers to interview undergraduate applicants to Georgetown, where she earned her BS in Business Administration. I've known them both for many years now in this context and in others as they've worked to reduce airplane noise, which severely affects thousands of my constituents. Most people are not severely affected, but thousands of people are severely affected, and everybody's got an interest in quieter skies. And so we wanted to recognize them for the mostly unseen work that they do all the time in meetings out at National Airport, at meetings in the community, and working with me to help us do whatever we can in Congress to promote a lower noise-based aviation system. So for all these reasons, for everything they do and lots more that I haven't even talked about, we salute you, Ann Hollander. We salute you, Janelle Wright. You are our local heroes.
Thank you.
Wow.
And let's start with this. And I don't know, Ann, if you wanted to take the first stab at it, but if you were to talk to one of my other constituents who's a neighbor who's not in the direct flight path, how do you go about explaining why this is such a serious problem? If you were to talk to somebody, say, who lives in Wheaton or in Silver Spring, where we're not as seriously affected by it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we do get that asked that a lot. It is very hard for people who are not impacted by the loud, repetitive, sleep disturbing noise to understand how serious it is, but it does affect, as you said, thousands of your constituents. And the problem is that the FAA concentrated the noise over certain communities when they created their new next-gen system, which is GPS-based way of navigating airplanes. And there are very serious public health impacts from that kind of exposure to concentrated, repetitive, uncontrolled noise.
Yeah, and it's serious for people's hearing, it's serious for people's physical health, it's serious for their mental and emotional health. The ability to sleep uninterrupted is obviously critical to people's well-being. So Janelle, similarly, if you were to try to explain to people, well, what's the general policy landscape that we operate in here to try to make things better? How would you describe generally what we're working on?
In general, the FAA has virtual free reign to do whatever they want with what's called the NAS, the National Airspace. And their priorities, their mission is safety and efficiency. And there's very little consideration given to environmental impacts. And by that, I mean health impacts to aviation impacted communities. So we are working, and in particular, to highlight some of those negative health impacts, particularly cardiovascular impacts. And I think ultimately, because of the new performance-based navigation, which is the satellite-based navigation that the FAA now uses to design flight paths, which is concentrated all the noise in very narrow corridors, we're talking to community members about that, community leaders, and the ultimate goal is to have some consideration of the environmental impact so that it's not all about safety, it's not all about efficiency, but where there are opportunities to say, put a flight path over compatible area, such as a body of water or an industrial area, we would want the FAA to consider doing that.
And in this process, our community in Montgomery County and in DC and certain parts of Northern Virginia has linked up with people in other parts of the country, like in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in Miami, places where there's very heavy air traffic, like there is here, and where there are densely packed communities that experience it. And I've got to say that without the work of the Quiet Skies Coalition and Anne and Janelle and other activists like them from other communities, we would be nowhere here. I mean, there would be no attention paid at all to the communities, but we've been able at the margins to improve some things by pushing hard. What is your general sense, Anne, of kind of where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're going? I mean, are you feeling optimistic generally about the trajectory of things?
It depends what day you ask me, to be honest.
Well, we did just defeat an effort to expand a whole bunch of flights at DCA.
Absolutely. And on that day, I was feeling very optimistic.
Yeah.
So yes, you're referring to the fact that there was a big effort to increase the number of flights out of DCA, out of our local airport. And
that was basically just for some members of Congress who wanted a direct flight to Washington.
Right. And in spite of the fact that it's already over capacity, one of the busiest or the busiest runway in the United States, we have a highly congested airspace already, but so do many other, as you mentioned, many other communities around the country. And yes, we're working with those communities. We have a long way to go. I think that the big issue here is that noise is the forgotten pollutant. People do not yet understand the serious health consequences, and that quiet is something that people need the same way they need clean air and clean water to have a livable existence, frankly. And so we're working hard to build political power across the country on this issue and to educate people about the seriousness of noise as a pollutant.
Yeah, and you guys are doing just a magnificent job. Janelle, let me have you close if you would. Do you do you enjoy the time that you spend doing this, or do you regret the many, many hours you've put into doing this? Or how do you think of it in terms of the rest of your life?
Oh boy. I would say anyone, working on a project like this needs a good friend. And thankfully I have one. Her name is Anne Hollander, because it's not a lot of fun if you don't have a friend. In fact, a local community approached us recently and expressed an interest in starting their own community coalition and asking us for advice. And I think our first piece of advice was find a friend before you embark on this. But aside from that, it has been a lot of time, a lot of effort. So far, we feel very satisfied that we've done the best we can for now, but there's certainly more work to be done. We're working on a Fly Quiet program at Reagan National that we're hoping to fund. And that's a way we can talk to the airlines about perhaps flying quieter and newer aircraft into airports like ours that are in the middle of dense residential development. But there's always more work to do. I can't commit to how many years in the future I'll be doing this, but I think Anne knows that as long as she's working on it, I'll be by her side.
Well, that's a beautiful way to end with our local heroes, Janelle Wright and Anne Hollander, this week. Everybody needs to undertake some activism to make our community and our world better. And if you can do it with a friend and you can make a closer friend out of it, even better, this will keep you going through thick and thin and through the hard times. So thank you for being a model of public activism, both of you, and a model of friendship too.
Thank you, Congressman Raskin.
Thank you.
You're our local heroes.